You're listening to Zing Talk. I'm Matthew Boesler. Ashley Madison, a controversial dating website that was launched in 2001, has received heavy criticism over its premise. The site serves as a platform for married persons to engage in marital infidelity. Its slogan, "Life is short, have an affair." Joining me today is founder and spokesman for Ashley Madison, Noel Biderman. Noel, welcome to Zing Talk.
Thanks for having me, Matthew.
Noel, marital infidelity has been around as long as marriage. What drove your decision to foray into this world?
I think what's changed, though, Matthew, is that you have to take a look at the Internet's growth around social networking and dating. And so stigmas that once existed in online personal ads were quickly shed, and more people started going online to find their beloved. And as they did that, more and more people who were already in relationships took advantage. And they, too, started joining those services. And my paradigm was, why not build a social network of their own where these married people could connect with one another as opposed to having them pose as something they weren't?
Right. And you say that, your site serves as a useful tool for, at least in order to keep people away from starting affairs in the workplace or on singles dating websites where it's not exactly appropriate.
Yeah, no, I think our community functions in two positive ways if you look at it from society's benefit. Yes, workplace affairs lead to either unfair promotions or people losing their jobs, so they're a net negative. And then you have people joining singles dating sites, visiting escorts, doing all this kind of behavior when they're already in relationships, which is either criminal or dangerous at best. And so if you can cannibalize that behavior into a community of like-minded adults, then, you're creating a net benefit to that society. And I think also for those people pursuing those affairs, you're helping them mitigate that risk.
Right. And one of the statements you've made in response to criticism of Ashley Madison, and especially the commercials you air, is that your commercial in a 30-second spot is not going to convince anyone to cheat. But what about those who would shy away from trying to start an affair in the workplace and that sort of thing, and see your commercial and realize that there is a simple way to engage in marital infidelity where they didn't necessarily see that opportunity before?
Yeah, no, listen, I think affairs have always been linked to opportunity, and so it's really hard to kind of roll back time. And so whether that opportunity is on a business trip or whether that's through the presence of strip clubs and massage parlors on the street corner, whether it's easier to engage in an affair now because you have a personal device versus having to walk to the payphone at the corner, or having a hotel room, not ask for ID to confirm that you're married couples, all those things are things that we wouldn't really welcome in our society, which is you have to let adults be adults, right? We can't legislate certain behavior. We can't create prohibitions. It's failed every time that we do so. And so the bottom line is that's never more prevalent than when it comes to people's personal sex lives. And so, yes, I'm part of the landscape that says to people, let people be who they want to be and pursue what they need to pursue.
But so is it a question of taking these, kind of cannibalizing this behavior, like you say, and putting it in a place where it's not affecting other people? Or is your stance more that this can actually help a marriage if this is something that's lacking from a marriage that your service can actually help keep people together?
Yeah, well, it's really two separate questions you're asking me. On the latter one, which is, do affairs help a marriage? Yes, that's why people pursue them. Ashley Madison is not some kind of home wrecking service. These are people who are saying, hey, I love my partner, I cherish my children, my extended family, my economic situation, but for whatever reason, their sex lives isn't working for them. They didn't sign up to be celibate, for example, and so they're looking to pursue something outside of their relationship to preserve their primary relationship. And while that's hard for people to digest and or understand that's the case, the role that I play in this whole thing is to sit there and say, this has been going on time immemorial. Would we rather Facebook be inundated, for example, with people looking to have affairs? That's not what the site was intended and created for. Or would you rather people who want to behave in that manner go to a site where that's highlighted? I think the latter is the logical one.
You've made several television appearances going on The View and Hannity and Tyra Banks, Huckabee, and Larry King, among others, in defense of Ashley Madison. And you've really met strong opposition in almost every appearance. Is this revealing of a marketing philosophy that says really all publicity is good publicity?
Well, I think that's part of it. I think you got to look at it in a couple of things, which is, I'm trying to start a conversation, not necessarily have the last word. I think the topic of infidelity is greatly misunderstood. The research to date is thin at best, right? It's been hard to get people to sign up to participate in a study that helps them understand why they had an affair. Or maybe it wasn't even relevant, because having people discuss why they're having affairs after the fact is not the same as the genesis of infidelity. And so our site has become, if you will, this sociology experiment. We're able to sign up 10,000 people every single hour to the service, that's really powerful data about who's coming here, why they're coming here, how long they're staying there. Just to tell people a lot more. And so, our conversations have often start off as, oh my goodness, there's a site out there that caters to people in relationships looking to have affairs. And it starts to evolve into more of a reflection in the mirror about what society is really about and how we behave in relationships. We all know that, their marriage today is more likely to fail than it is to succeed, if you want to define success as staying together. And so we have a changing face of matrimony. Matrimony hasn't always looked this way, meaning it hasn't always been monogamous and heterosexual. We're evolving it to include same-sex couples. It used to be much more focused around the absence of premarital sex. People got married much, much younger. Just so many things change. It's not a static institution. And so until we start looking at monogamy and its impact, well, we're constantly going to be kind of blown away by the topic of an affair. But truthfully, it's something we need to understand better.
Now, there have been commercials aired during prime time on cable news networks in recent weeks by a marriage advocacy group singling out Ashley Madison as their target, and some have speculated that this is just a part of your strategy to penetrate an otherwise inaccessible ad market. What is your response to this?
Yeah, no, listen, I've had a couple of interviews about that, and I've seen the ads, and my guess is the individual behind them, I'll say individual because that's what I think it is someone who's just trying to do something for his own political gain, whether they're trying to run for an attorney general position or whatever it ends up being. This is just one of those stories that makes them look good by saying, oh, look, I tried to take this on, I tried to defend marriage. I don't know that there's much of an organization behind it, and so, but again, if someone wants to spend their money and time trying to, knock us off our pedestal, all the power to them. We're not breaking any laws. Ashley Madison has the right to exist like anybody else. And I do think what's unfair is that an organization like that can get the opportunity to advertise. Then why shouldn't I have the chance to put my ad up on the same, CBS or Fox or ABC station that they're able to do? That seems to me to be kind of unfair balance, but that's what goes on right now in America and in Canada. My ads are okayed by Telecaster and everyone in the regulatory regime, but often one executive sitting alone in an office says, oh, I don't like the nature of that business. I'm not going to let that ad see any daylight.
Right. But I mean, really, you've seen the ads and they do kind of put you in the spotlight quite a bit. They're definitely targeting Ashley Madison specifically. It's almost like free publicity. Yeah,
no, listen, it's no different than when I was on Sean Hannity, and the entire time he sat there bemoaning the existence of my service, and yet ran 3 of my ads as sample commercials that he would never accept on his show. And so when 20,000 people tried to sign up that very minute, my servers almost crashed, right? And so, it's no different than the women of The View saying this is abhorrent, but then airing my commercial and then talking to me about it for half an hour, or anybody, Tyra Banks saying, I can't believe people are hating this, but dedicating an entire hour to a show of it. So I think it's the same thing over and over. I'm not the only human being on the planet making money off the topic of infidelity. Make no mistake about it. It's journalists, it's therapists, it's all kinds of people. And as more and more famous people, whether those are presidents and princes, whether those are, entertainers or athletes, as more and more of those people have very well-known public affairs that have huge news cycles to them, right? The Sandra Bullock story played out how many different ways and how many different stations for how long of a period of time. That just gives greater and greater license to both the regular person pursuing an affair and me being called upon as an expert to discuss the topic, which gives more length to my brand.
Right. So really, it just goes back to as long as you can spark the conversation about Ashley Madison, that's really all you need to do.
That's my role in this whole thing, right? Which is I don't need to sit there and try and persuade anyone in a happy relationship that affairs are a good thing. What I need to do is tell people, listen, people have affairs. It doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make them ill-equipped to be presidents or CEOs or whatever it ends up being. And here's what you should know about people who have affairs. And so if my role in that is just to be the voice of reason or a voice for all these, whether you believe the percentage to be 50% of people or 70% of people in relationships, whatever the number is, to be their voice, well, great. That's a great role for me. And yes, my business benefits from that at the end of the day.
Noel, describe the growth trajectory of Ashley Madison over the past few years.
Yeah, it can only be described as meteoric. It's a hockey stick like probably nothing that's ever been seen before, which is once we figure out how to build a discreet product to make sure that you remained anonymous and weren't going to be discovered and we're going to have all the nuances that would lead to a successful affair. Our site has gone from 900,000 users to 7.8 million users in the span of the last 2.5 to 3 years. And I think by any stretch of measurement, that's pretty remarkable. And And the unique thing about Ashley Madison, doesn't matter if our next marketplace is Brazil or China or France or wherever it ends up being, people the world over have affairs, and if we can speak to them with the right voice and the right nuances, this will be a global business that could be in 100 countries and in 20 plus languages and have 100 million users in the next couple of years.
And you say that one of the most popular times to sign up for this site is after holidays. What is your projection for, the holiday season coming up?
Well, yeah, listen, I think, again, you have to understand why people have affairs. It's not because Ashley Madison puts a TV commercial out there or because I do an interview. People have affairs because at the end of the day, their relationship isn't living up to what they expect it to do. And so something finally pushes them into the realm of having the affair. And so when you're thrust together around holiday time, or whether New Year's is upon you and you reflect on the year past and the year you're going to have, that's when decisions are made. And people tend to make those decisions and say, you know what? I need to do something for myself. I work so hard every single day to provide for my family. I do this for my partner. I do this for my children. I need to do this for myself. And that's the decision they make. And at that point in time, they can probably take a number of avenues. They can probably look in their circle of influence to pursue what it is they want to pursue. They can probably look to go to Las Vegas, where everyone knows their marketing campaign the last decade. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. They can probably look to have an office romance, or they can now look to go on to Ashley Madison and pursue something a little more discreetly, a little more anonymously. And that's what I think millions of people are going to choose to do this holiday season.
Now, Avid Life Media, the parent company to Ashley Madison, manages a number of other edgy online dating platforms, but probably none quite as controversial as Ashley Madison. But could you see one of these usurping Ashley Madison as your flagship brand at some point in the future?
I don't know that anything could ever usurp Ashley Madison from a point of controversy, considering that it might be the most controversial website ever created, or if not Napster, then pretty close to it,
But in terms of growth and success?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think with Ashley Madison, you're genuinely looking at the fastest growing social network on the planet, excluding Facebook. You're looking at 100 million plus user base ultimately in multiple countries. I don't know that anything else has that kind of universal appeal. The universe of people who are single and looking to connect with one another, that's a very big universe. The universe of people already in relationships but are looking to either stray, move on, and that is a much bigger universe than even that single one. And so we're at the forefront of that and tapping into it. And so I can't imagine that taking a subset of that singles marketplace, whether that's people who want to date older women, cougar life, or wealthy guys and established men, or same-sex relationships and Man Crunch, that, open relationships and SwapNet, all those other brands that we have are all interesting verticals, but nothing that has the potential reach of Ashley Madison.
No, you had an IPO in the works back in February. Why was that put on hold?
I don't have a ton of insight into that because I personally wasn't necessarily pursuing that directly. That was something that we were discussing kind of at an investor level and a board level. And really it was also being done around a potential acquisition that fell through. And so I, for one, am totally happy with Ashley Madison and Avid being a privately held company. We have some great investors who provide a lot of guidance and insight. We're wildly profitable, as successful a Canadian digital company as there is, and ultimately I think are a relevant player on the entire worldwide stage. And so at some point, that could be relevant, but we don't lack for resources, right? We actually have more marketing dollars than we know how or can spend. We're one of those companies that at the end of the day would like to spend more on marketing, but are prohibited from running its Super Bowl ads in all the places they want and buying as many keywords on content networks as we'd like to do. And so we're not really in need of the kind of funds that would help our expansion. Our expansion is easily funded, and we're comfortable enough to do it under the current paradigm.
Right, and you've kind of taken some unconventional marketing strategies in the past, trying to have the new Meadowlands Stadium renamed as AshleyMadison.com Stadium, and I think an airport in Arizona as well. Do you have any big plans like that on the horizon for marketing ploys?
I don't know if I would call them a ploy. What we really do is take a look at a marketing opportunity that would allow us, for example, with the Meadowlands Stadium, it's hosting a Super Bowl. New York's hosting a Super Bowl in 2014. We had worked really hard the last couple of years to do a lot more stuff with the NFL. We know that's where our customer base sits. We hadn't seen a lot of success, and so why not try, we thought, to find a way so that every Monday Night Football game that's played in New York for the next 5 years, for them to be saying, hey, welcome to Ashley Madison Stadium. What an incredible opportunity to further your brand. And they were looking for a sponsor. So our view of the world is, let's have a plan A, let's have a plan B. Plan A is let's try and get the marketing deal we really want to pursue if the world was a more just place. And plan B is if they say no, let's tell people about it and ask them, well, why would they say no? It's the same way with, renaming an airport in Las Vegas. From an airport perspective, we find out that hundreds of people are about to be laid off, unemployed. And our view is we'll step in, provide you the funding so you don't have to fire these people. You just need to rename your airport. That seems like a really fair pitch from my perspective. But that city would rather fire people and put them, into unemployment than to partner with Ashley Madison. So that's a great media story. That says a lot about how people feel about affairs, how people feel about our brand. That's a statement worth having. I would have loved for every time someone to land in Las Vegas, my guess is 25 million people do every single month or year, whatever the number is, to hear about my brand and that alignment. But if that doesn't happen, then great. I'm going to try my second part of my strategy, which is, tell the media about it. But make no mistake about it, I would always prefer Plan A. Plan A gets me continued marketing, continued customer acquisition funnels. I could grow my business more consistently and more effectively if I was able to market my service how I wanted to. Having, the local Toronto newspapers talk about my attempt to advertise with the TTC for a couple of weeks is really great for those couple of weeks. But what about right now? What about the, hundreds of thousands of people I want to speak to today that aren't seeing my ad? There isn't the same opportunity as long-term marketing. And it's unfortunate that we still are, in a society where they can't allow me the level playing field as they would a traditional dating site.
All right. Noel Biderman, founder and spokesman for Ashley Madison. Noel, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
That was our exclusive interview with Noel Biderman, the outspoken founder of the controversial dating website Ashley Madison, here on Benzinga's Zing Talk. Be sure to subscribe to Zing Talk in iTunes. You can find a link to do that on the Benzinga homepage. If you like what you hear, please give us a good rating and help new listeners find us. All Benzinga podcasts are released under Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 3.5 license, and all other rights are reserved.